So, hey Kirill, hi again. It's great having you with us. This is our second Know Your Operator session. Essentially, today we're going to talk to Kirill from Stakewise. He's going to explain a bit about what they do, a bit about their relationship to the SSV network, and all in all, we're very, very excited to have you with us. So, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm very happy to talk about Stakewise and how we fit into the SSV network.
Great. With us, like always, we have Alon. Alon, say hi to everyone.
Hello, everyone.
All right. So essentially, the idea here is to talk a bit, give you the platform to talk a bit about Stakewise, talk a bit about the future of Stakewise within the SSV network or what it comes to solve. We'll get to that point later. How about we start off with the simple things of tell us about what you're building, what you're planning to build, what the future of Stakewise looks like in a few months or years from today.
Right. Thanks. So Stakewise is a liquid ETH2 staking platform. I think publicly we have existed for probably the longest time of everyone, starting with the beta back in May 2020. And, it took us 1 year to test everything, build out the current offering, and get ready for launch. And so we sort of started our growth story back in March 2021. What we do is liquid staking. So literally, people are able to come into staking and exit staking whenever they want. And this is done via tokenization of their deposits. So for every Ether that is deposited and earned, we issue tokens, and these tokens become sort of the means of exchange where people can go to the liquidity pool and swap tokens back for Ether. We have amassed a little over 35,000 Ether to date from around 3,000 users and continue growing. And I think we are the second largest liquid staking solution in DeFi, judging by the amount of liquidity for a token. We are, on this road to bring staking to institutional clients as well. So this is, our long-term goal. However, we do want to make staking as simple as possible for anybody that wants to participate in it. And of course, security comes as a priority in this mission. So our current, near-term goal is decentralization. And while we are pursuing it with our own efforts so far, while SSV is being built out, we are keeping a close eye on the developments with solutions like SSV and actively taking part in the test nets and occasionally contributing where we can. Now,
Hello?
to make the platform.
Yeah, we lost you for a second there.
Yeah. Right. Sorry. So yeah, it's the goal right now to decentralize the protocol and use this as a foundation for building further offering on ETH2 and other blockchains. And that's
I actually have a question. Could you elaborate on your two token system? Because I think you're the only ones doing that.
That's correct. Yeah, and thank you for pointing this out. So the two token system is indeed a unique one in ETH2 staking, and the crux is that we tokenize the rewards from ETH2 staking separately, in a separate token, whereas everybody else bundles the deposit and the rewards into one token. So the advantage of the dual token system is that one, it lets you control the earnings flexibly. You don't need to sell a part of your deposit whenever you are selling rewards, which is the case with everybody else. And, the implication is that we enable compounding when nobody else can offer it. So the people on our platform are able to swap rewards into more principal and thus reinvest their earnings, essentially compounding their returns. There are other advantages to the dual token system, the ones that are probably rarely talked about, and this is in the fact that we avoid the mathematical flaw in tokenization of others. So the issue here is that whenever you bundle the deposit and the rewards in one token, representing a share of the pool, the people who join your pool whenever it has already earned some rewards are buying these rewards essentially for the nominal value. But these rewards are not actually interest bearing. So whenever your pool has, say, 10% of rewards in its TVL and the person is joining, they will be earning something like 10% less on their capital. So this is an issue that everybody with a single token faces, but the dual token system allows to avoid this issue because we just map the deposits onto a separate token and the rewards on another token. So no issue there. And then maybe finally, it just allows for a simpler UX in DeFi. So oftentimes you need to wrap your single token, put it somewhere to preserve your staking rewards if you want to access them, or if you want to liquidate your stake, you need to unstake, unwrap, sell. And it's just, I don't know, with the current gas fees especially, it's just a hassle. And then with dual token system, instead, what you can do is just claim the rewards whenever you want. If your token is in a contract somewhere, and if it's not, then you don't even need to do anything. It just lands on your wallet automatically every day.
Gotcha. Cool.
That's a very good answer. I know that you mentioned that you guys are planning on offering other staking possibilities, but we're more specifically interested in your, ETH staking.
Of course.
So I was wondering if you could elaborate a bit about, why ETH staking?
I mean, it's a no-brainer. This is the blockchain with POS functionality that brings staking to to the real world, basically. I think until then, even though staking, the blockchains with staking have been relatively popular within certain circles, it is the attention that ETH2 is bringing towards blockchain and the possibility to earn some passive yield that is finally going to bring institutions in. So we are very keen to participate in this development. And of course, there's nothing better than contributing and innovating in the largest open source development community in the world. We are pretty committed to the future of France in this sense. So I mean, if you're just a disclaimer, it's just a joke. So yeah, we are super excited to be a part of the ETH2 success story, and looking forward to doing more with what we have.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that Ethereum staking is very different in the sense that for any other blockchain or any other staking mechanism, you first need to buy into the token and then stake. And with Ethereum, you only need to stake because most people do hold Ethereum anyhow. I think that's the biggest probably advancement.
Yes, for sure. But also, how to put this, it makes sense whenever you are growing a balance of some asset. It makes sense for you to be sort of bullish on it, and there's probably no other asset that I'm as bullish on as on Ethereum. So this sort of increasing concentration of your portfolio is, in my opinion, great, despite the things that risk management people can say.
Yeah, definitely.
What other blockchains are you guys currently testing?
Currently, we're not testing anything. We are very, very early stage in terms of developing liquid staking solutions for other chains, but we obviously are looking towards some established protocols like Solana, but also at the newer ones like Luxo, for example. And we feel that there will be more opportunities to have these solutions as these new chains mature and new ones emerge. So yeah, we're keen to just continue observing and picking our battles. It's staking is a very competitive space, at least on the infrastructure layer. So we are pretty keen to innovate in the liquid staking space and see where it takes us.
You couldn't have phrased it better for the next section. It's a great segue. We're going to be talking about the SSV and what it brings to Stakewise and what it enables you to do, or better yet, focus on, as opposed to what you were planning on originally. So I'd love to hear your, just like you explained about Ethereum, let's talk about why SSV.
Yeah. So I think first of all, the sort of elephant in the room with ETH 2.0 staking is the infrastructure layer. So everybody is super concerned about the fact that you need to put a lot of trust in the node operator, so to say. And whereas on the smart contract level, you can sort of fix the issues of custody and perhaps even fix the issues of forced exits, because sometimes there's also discussed as a pain point. You cannot really take out the human element out of the infrastructure as of today. However, by introducing something like SSV, what we can do is minimize the influences of this human factor to the maximum possible extent, and this is what's so great about it. The obviously, the most important thing, of course, is keeping the attestation rates high and making this a viable solution for the mainnet. And we are very happy to contribute to testing this out and helping develop where we can. But as a vision, I think that there couldn't be anything else of what possibilities are out there to make staking as risk-free as possible. So SSV, first and foremost, is something that should allow us to minimize the risks for our users.
I think it's also, other than the users themselves, I mean, today, the biggest, as you've mentioned, the biggest operational risk, development risk is really slashing. I mean, you could sustain a downtime if you're an operator. Of course, it's not ideal, but generally speaking, even if you're down for a few hours, like the impact on your customers is very minimal in terms of the actual rewards they lost. But slashing is a whole different ball game, especially until we have withdrawals. But even afterwards, you'll have if, for example, you have a very long exit queue, you could get stuck for months, even after withdrawals, and not, of course, mentioning the actual penalty you'll get. I think with SSV, you can lower the operational risk and complexity much lower, and really save a lot of money on cost and of development and cost of insurance and all of those type of things. You could definitely imagine a world where you have 4 or 7 operators on a validator, and one of the operators says, tomorrow at 2 p.m. I'm going down for 4 hours for maintenance, and nothing really happens. Everyone continues their work, and there's no impact on the users. And that operator can do upgrades and changes and so on and so forth. And of course, another layer of that is you have a robust infrastructure layer where you're much less worried about changing stuff, because today everyone is building their own infrastructure, and of course there's always that worry, if I change this, what's the effect on that, and so on and so forth. And not even talking about accidental slashing, which is could be a very honest mistake, but could get slashing for your validators. So I think the whole kind of let's say the edge or the amount of anxiety you have for everything you do in your system will be 99% lower, just because you're working as a committee.
Yes.
It's like I always say to people, it's like imagine that your validator is the only one on the Ethereum net, and it's the only one proposing and attesting. And now imagine you have another 100,000. So it's the same thing, right? I mean, once you distribute, you reduce a lot of the risk.
Yes, absolutely. And also thinking from the perspective of, who are the actual node operators in the ecosystem, I think SSV has a potential to democratize the node operator market.
Yeah.
Because I think these days people tend to go for the proven, established node operators, and what this contributes to is centralization of sorts.
Yeah.
Where the bigger you get, the more deposits you attract. And then I think SSV enables, the opposite effect, where you can say have an extra 2 or 3 node operators running your validator, and give them a chance essentially whenever they are new and untested, because you can afford the risk of them going down because the others are supposed to be working. And then gradually, I believe this could contribute to wider decentralization in the market, and of course, in turn, towards more stable earnings and just a like lesser risk.
Yeah. I would even add 2 more points, like decentralization. One of the big benefits of decentralization, which might not be talked about too often, is that it really promotes innovation, because decentralization really means that the infrastructure is very safe and you can experiment with the application. And you can do that with once your infrastructure is decentralized. You can imagine that you can do a lot more innovation if you don't need to do everything on your own, right? From the running a node all the way to building the website or building the smart contracts. And you let people focus on different things. And of course, you'll always have companies like Stakewise, which play a dual role. They can be an operator and also can be the application. But generally, you can focus and create a much faster innovation. And so I think that's definitely important. And the second point is always the decentralization. It makes everything much more secure, and I think it promotes trust and trust in the, let's say, of the trustless system, and it can definitely promote more people to stake and so on and so forth.
Yes, I totally agree. In a sense, I think what we're witnessing is just like a natural evolution of the staking market, where you can separate the layers that you build on top of the infrastructure from the infrastructure itself. So the companies, like the different companies that are in the space, can focus on what they do best, whether this be infrastructure running or creating liquid staking solutions, or going even a step further, creating structured products built on liquid staking solutions. So
yeah, you can also see that in the current DeFi market. I mean, if you'll see that the big DeFi companies, Uniswap and so on, they can take an oracle from Chainlink and they can use the graph for their websites and for the web app, and they can use some L2 solution for speed and so on, and they can focus on what they do best. Instead of, if you go 3 or 4 years back, you'll had companies developing everything from the oracle, even a wallet like MetaMask. I mean, 3 or 4 years ago, I know at least of one company that actually developed a MetaMask like wallet because there wasn't any. And so I think you'll see those things happening with staking as well.
Yes, I'd agree with you.
It's a great way to analyze it. I mean, giving space for more innovation because you're taking care of the infrastructure is definitely one of the best added values. I do have a question. I mean, you've been in the staking space for long enough to know what the biggest obstacles are. But now, with the introduction of SSV, what would you say? What's the biggest problem it solves for you?
Yeah, it's the always present risk of slashing, and even though, like I mentioned, we took every precaution to optimize our infrastructure, basically have the architecture that minimizes the risk of slashing. We literally ran in testnet for 8 months just for the sole purpose of having like the best setup. And even now, when we're thinking about decentralization, we are trying to bake in solutions that would enable like the mitigation of the human factor in like instances that may potentially lead to slashing. So with SSV, I think we would have more, even more confidence in what we have on the infrastructure side, and it would allow us to focus on what we probably do best, which is tokenization and innovation in that space, like Al mentioned.
Great. Alon, is there something you want to add?
No, I think that I hope that will be the answer.
Yeah, yeah, great. Uh, could you briefly tell us a bit about your experience so far with running the technology? I know it's early stage. I know it hasn't been, as amazing and as perfect as it should be, but it would be great if you could share your experience so far.
Right. So I personally was not involved, but I asked for Dimitri's comments on this. Dimitri is our CTO, who has been actively participating in the testnet and in the previous discussions and SSV calls. And he shared that we have had a pretty smooth experience so far, to the extent where the node is running and you don't really need to monitor it all that much as it continues to churn out good performance. I think there are definitely ways that this can be further improved with like more documentation, with more support around like the deployment, and definitely more awareness, because what is important in the testnet is having more people try the product to have like a really stressful load on the system to see how well it stands this test. So these are the areas, which we hope will sort of continue improving and evolving, but the experience so far has already been pretty smooth.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that the first few weeks of the test, and I think it's been almost a month now, is really about small scale, but trying to make it robust and just make sure everything works. And in a month or so, we are planning an incentivized testnet to come online, which will definitely boost a lot more people and operators coming into the network. And so we'll need to test it out and see the load all on the node itself and how it handles it and so on and so forth. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that we should amp up just the kind of the let's say the size of the testnet to go and see if it works well as well. I bet we'll have a ton of issues when we start to accelerate. But yeah, I mean, other than that, it's great to hear that you guys had a good experience and everything went smoothly. In terms of monitoring, we'll definitely improve on that. You guys will have in the next probably week or two a dashboard for the operators, so you can see all of the different things and so on. And also the Explorer will start. That will take a bit longer, but will include much more data around which operator did what and so on, to have a very, very deep dive into the network. Those areas are definitely something we need to work on.
Right, that sounds very exciting. And actually, I wanted to mention that like the more issues, if any, we can bring out during the testnet, the better. I think the response to like the Medalla incident right around a year ago, when it was just being launched, where a client issue led to something like 40% of the network being down, really helped build a more robust system. And pointed everyone's attention towards the weakest parts of like the client and the improvement areas. So we definitely need these failures, if they happen, to like regroup and continue stronger.
So I totally agree, and we had a bunch of them. We actually had one very interesting today. So the basic architecture or setup for SSV should have some external signer, and that external signer should protect against slashing and everything else. So even if the SSV fails, you still have the basic slashing protection you would have had, as just a normal validator. But obviously, as of now, we don't have that. So the SSV has a very rudimentary signer. It doesn't have slashing protection. It's something we need to work and refactor to do it well. But one of the side effects of that is that if anything happens on the SSV layer, then all of a sudden you can get slashed. And I'm not happy to say, but today we got our first slashing. And of course, again, that wouldn't happen if you have a slashing protection, a remote signer. That will never happen. But because we didn't have one, it didn't cover up for whatever happened there, which caused it to slash. And so now we can, we have the opportunity to go and dig deeper and understand what happened and then fix it and so on and so forth. And so you'll definitely have a bunch of those things in the testnet. And I think the bigger and the more people join, the more operators join, specifically about different types of operators. So different geolocations, different cloud providers, different, of course, beacon node implementations. Like you need that diversity to surface all of the different issues. I totally agree. I think the more issues we'll have, the better and more suited to mainnet will be and faster. And so yeah, I totally agree. I think we're trying to move as fast as we can and prioritize with which issues should be solved and so on and so forth. But I agree. I think that there's nothing like real world testing at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just like we had a conversation last week with one of our prominent community members, Yorick, and he said we need to overload the system as much as we can to see at what point it breaks. We need to see where it breaks. So again, we invite everyone and anyone who wants to join and participate. This is the time. And again, by the way, when Alon mentioned slashing, it's GoETH. It's a test network. We're not talking about the real deal. Just so you guys know. Okay. Kirill, the last part is more about your opinion about the Ethereum ecosystem in general, kind of, the $1,000,000 questions that everyone wants to know. So your opinion, again, no right or wrong answer here. Where do you see the staking ecosystem post-merge? So the next big step for us.
Right, the moon. I think I've seen some interesting calls for Tesla cars to include ETH2 nodes as they're running to decentralize the network. that's probably taking it too far, but honestly, I think I agree with the intention. I think it would be amazing to see as many people, entities, devices be able to run ETH2 nodes as possible. And if this happens in some sort of a super high throughput SSV setup, it would be amazing for the security of the whole thing. So this is where I would love it to end up. Where do I see it immediately after the merge? Obviously, there's this pretty big gap between where we stand today and where this vision expects us to be from the technical perspective. And I think the collective effort from the whole Ethereum community, from the SSV network developers, from the developers of other solutions, will eventually take us there. We remain observant about and sort of patient about how long this will take. So we are thinking how do we sort of wait out this period? What do we do with our own product? But post merge, this the decentralization of infrastructure and having as many parallel instances running as possible without the risk of slashing will probably become the main sort of goal for the ecosystem. I also believe that the way staking is built up on ETH2, it invites a lot of institutional attention, and with it comes the innovation in the liquid staking space. So we probably will see some more structured products evolve in DeFi, and it will likely expand beyond the permissionless space into perhaps just the permission space, like we're seeing with Aave's Arc and Sushi's Trident. I mean, Sushi's Trident it's probably not super well known, but they have this intention to franchise their product in order to allow just institutional clients in. And yeah, we would definitely want to be there too. Otherwise, I would hope that as even more people participate than currently do. So we are at about 7 million Ether staked. I don't see why this couldn't go I don't know, 10x from now. So very keen to see how it develops.
10x is nice. I would love to see that. If there's one thing that the ETH space has taught me is that in this case, patience does pay off usually.
Mhm.
So yeah. All right. You already touched on it a little bit, but in a scenario where everything, knock on wood, goes according to plan post merge, what potential or where do you see SSV as a player within that ecosystem, if at all?
Solutions like SSV, I would expect should become the standard way of running the infrastructure. So there is probably little doubt about the importance of the infrastructure layer for staking. As long as there are people who don't have the technical capacity to run their own nodes and don't have the necessary capital, which I expect is just going to, this requirement in terms of capital is just going to grow over time for people who are just coming into Ethereum because of the price appreciation that I believe will continue happening. We will see, more staking solutions emerge, or the ones that currently exist grow larger, and they will likely need to rely on infrastructure providers like SSV, or like infrastructure networks like SSV. So I would really expect it to become like the mainstay in the infrastructure layer.
I would love to see that. That's a hell of a vision.
I mean,
Yeah.
imagine, I don't know, imagine being able to have, like, I don't know, 100 different devices, either run by entities or just ordinary people, run your validator. I think it's a very compelling thing, and something that is, sounds pretty futuristic, but if it is possible to build this without a sort of big delay in how the transactions are signed and compiled, then why not? And of course, if this is achieved, then like the world's our oyster as a ETH2 sort of staking market, because if you can get this passive yield without practically taking any risk, because infrastructure is the main one here, then there is absolutely no reason why the traditional financial institutions shouldn't come here, especially if there is some sort of hedging solution as well, which there will be. There already are, like, options markets that are growing super rapidly, and Ethereum is becoming one of the, like, everyone's talking about the flippening essentially in the cryptocurrency space of Ethereum over Bitcoin. So yeah, I'm super enthusiastic about it, and I'm very keen to see what actually happens. I have my own vision for it. Maybe it's too optimistic, maybe it's not. I would love to see it play out.
Yeah, I definitely share that. I think that over the long term, I think Ethereum is on a path to really dominate everything that happens in blockchain. There's less and less, I think, that Bitcoin versus Ethereum, like the delta between them is narrowing significantly. It will be very interesting to see what happens in the future. Also, I think that one of the challenges specifically Bitcoin has is the whole green movement. I think it's undeniably expensive in terms of resources. Even if they are green resources, it's still very wasteful in terms of resources. So it will be very interesting to see.
One of the best analogies, I think the first one who introduced me to this analogy was Alon, is that if DeFi or DeFi is going to replace financial vehicles, financial instruments, are going to give you more options, then staking is probably going to be the treasury bond behind it. So
Yeah.
the more stable of the choices.
Yeah,
So the more institutions join in, just like you mentioned, Kirill, the better that will look like.
Yeah, I think the vision of the internet bond that Mara and Colin have introduced really sort of conveys the fact that if DeFi is here to stay, then the staking yield is pretty much the risk-free rate, especially with solutions like SSV. So yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. All right. Just before we wrap things up, hopefully, and assuming you're going to be one of the most prominent players, operators on the SSV network, if you have a few words, a few explanatory reasons as for why people should choose you guys as their operators, this is it. Take it away.
Right. Well, obviously, I don't sort of like repeating myself, but we have done a lot to test our current system, and we therefore learned a lot about what works and what doesn't. So when it comes to becoming a part of the network, I think people can rely on us to do our utmost to make sure that the attestation rates are good, that the setup itself is invites minimum slashing risk, and that we have done our due diligence in terms of what can go wrong and prepare against it. We probably also want to highlight that will be important to diversify your risk. So even if we don't become like the largest or even just large, people can consider operators like us as this sort of bet that is worth taking, just in order to try and diversify the risk from like the more or the most popular node operators. We'll see how it goes. But also probably because of the fact that we are a very sort of approachable bunch and we have our own community that is very welcoming. And if they want to become a part of it, then they're very, very welcome. So I guess it's just a combination of our experience, our mindset, and the community around us that makes it, exciting to be staking with us.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think we've known each other, I would say, from mid 2020 and far before the mainnet and during the different test nets, and I definitely think that having that experience is very, very crucial. And I think that the fact that you have a community and you have people that trust you, I think that's very, very important. And also the community itself, and just being able to ping you guys and say, you know what, something doesn't work for me, or why this happened, or why that happened, or just say a good word. I think that lowers the anxiety for everyone, both for individuals who might choose you as operators on the network, but also imagine that if you have other for example, if Blox will transition its staking service to SSV, then of course our users will need to choose operators as well, right? I mean, hopefully one of them will be Blox, but they will need to choose 3 or 6 other operators. And I think that definitely takes into account the fact that you have a lot of the people who come because of the community, and I expect that they would want to choose other operators which kind of operate in the same manner, very openly, very well known in the industry, very open, community driven, and so on and so forth. And so I definitely think that will play a major role. I'd expect Stakewise to take a lot of stake coming the incentivized testnet. I think that we'll probably start seeing that.
Yes, fingers crossed. And as always, we will do our utmost to make sure that we actually get there too. It's not just sort of demand driven; it's also supply driven to some extent.
Yeah. By the way, on a personal note, if you haven't had the chance to join the Stakewise community and ask a bunch of questions there, I urge you to do it. I tested it myself from a few anonymous users, and every single time it was spot on. So
Correct.
You guys can learn about the dual system, about the ecosystem, about their team. Definitely a learning experience. All right, that was my last question. If you have any final remarks, or Alon, if you have any final remarks, please share them.
No, I mean, just I'm very happy to have you guys on the test net, and it's very instrumental to have people that really know their stuff and just know what they're doing. And very excited to introduce SSV to your community and kind of be in your roadmap ahead and so on. So thank you.
Yeah, and I think it is mutual that we are happy to be a part of it, and we'll be rallying behind the opportunity to test this, and then later on hopefully migrate to a solution like SSV. So yeah, thank you very much, guys, for letting me chat with you, and looking forward to making this a success.
Thanks, man.
For sure, it was a pleasure. Thank you, Kirill. Thanks for everything, and
Thank you.
we'll be in touch.